You are live, as it says. All right.
Welcome back to the Supercast. We are live, as Steve just said. I'm of course the Superposh. He is Stevesy. And what's up, dude? How you doing?
Doing well, man. I'm enjoying my break.
I hear you, man.
I'm yeah, I'm off all Thanksgiving week, and
Mm-hmm.
just having some fun. Like getting a lot of stuff done
Yeah.
around the house. The stuff that
Yep.
needs to be done. Doing some
Oh
cooking, some
yes.
cleaning,
Right.
but also staying up late watching movies. That's what I'm all about. So,
I'm
I mean,
telling you, man.
as you know, I'm a film junkie. Like I will sacrifice
Mm-hmm.
sleep and sanity to just
Yeah.
watch a movie.
Right. And we've got a good one that we're going to talk about here on this episode that maybe not a lot of people are aware of, but you definitely should be. But before we get into that, man, what's going on, man? What's on your mind?
I guess I'm thinking about something that happened to me last night, and I
Yeah,
wanted to share with everybody because this was the
let's hear
weirdest
it.
thing ever. So I'm a Godzilla freak. I've been
Yep.
Godzilla fan since second grade,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a film that jumped to my mind last night, and I was just like, I
Mm-hmm.
gotta watch this film tonight. And it's a movie that should never ever like really be in the conversation for I've got to watch this film tonight because that's happened to me a few times with stuff like, let's
Yeah.
say, The Godfather.
Yeah.
About a month ago, I was like, I gotta watch
Mm-hmm.
The Godfather tonight. I'm gonna make it
Right.
happen. Or
Right.
sometimes it's, I don't know, certain movies it happens to, but they're generally of higher quality than Godzilla
Mm-hmm.
versus the Sea Monster, or the Japanese version is called Ebra, the Horror of the Deep. I mean, it's considered to be one of the worst Showa era films, and
Mm-hmm.
I sat down to watch this thing,
Mm-hmm.
and I loved it.
Yeah.
It's a great film. Like it is, it's don't expect a good Godzilla film. Expect a silly Godzilla
Yeah.
film that
Yeah.
has some Bond elements to it. It has
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the visuals, like the way the guys are dressed the whole time is sort of
Yeah.
French New Wavy.
Mm-hmm.
Editing's all over the place. The music is like surf music the whole way through.
Mm-hmm.
It's just got a great vibe. I mean, Godzilla doesn't show up for an hour. He's just asleep, and they wake him up, and he fights some monsters. Kind of basic. I mean, he's just fighting a big lobster, so it's like this is cake, man.
What year
So
did it come out?
I think it's like 67, 68, somewhere in there.
Okay.
You definitely get the 60s vibes the whole way
Yeah.
through, and that's kind of why I liked it. And that's kind of why I guess it jumped to my mind because I watched Barbarella the night before, and that music is just
Yeah.
great. That whole movie is just great. And I
Right.
guess just psychologically, I was like, I want some more stuff like this. So I
Yeah.
popped in versus the Sea Monster. So
Is it one of
very
those?
very bizarre night.
Is it one of those? It's so
What'd you say,
bad
man?
it's good.
Um, See, I don't even think it's that bad, really. It's just, I don't know. You got to know what you're getting into.
I
Just
guess
know
so.
it's going to be goofy. It has no logic to it. Like, I'll
Mm-hmm.
just go and tell you at the very beginning of the film,
Mm-hmm.
these three guys are just, one of them wants to buy a yacht because he wants to go investigate his brother who just went missing at sea. The other two guys are
Mm-hmm.
just two guys that were out partying or something, and
Yeah.
they're like, "Oh, dude, you want to see a yacht? We'll go show you a boat." So they get on
Mm-hmm.
this boat, and there's this random guy asleep on there. He pulls out a shotgun. He's like, "Okay, you guys get off my boat." And they're like, "Okay, we'll get off." And he's like, "Never mind, just spend the night. You guys can. I'll kick you out in the morning." So they all go to sleep together, and they wake up and they're at sea. The one guy had just sent them off, and they're out in the ocean now. And they're not that mad about it. They're just like, "Come on, why'd you do this?" And then
Yeah.
they end up shipwrecked on this island with a bunch of monsters and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
you just don't question it. Nobody's like, "Man, this is very odd. I'm kind of scared." They're just kind of like,
Mm-hmm.
"Crap, we're on an island now. I guess we're gonna have to find a way off." It's just so
Wow.
funny, just the way it's the execution of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. You mentioned a minute ago that you're a huge Godzilla fan, Godzilla junkie, and I can back that up. I can
Hmm.
definitely confirm this. So if you had to watch one Godzilla movie from the beginning to I don't know the 80s or whatever, like what Godzilla movie could you watch? And it could only be one for the rest of your life. Like what movie would you pick?
Man,
I'm
that's
putting you on the
tough.
spot here. This is live, man.
Yeah, well, that's tough because I should go with the original because the original is
Yeah,
like, I mean, it's the best made of the whole series.
sure, sure.
Um, but I guess I would probably go with um, one or two. I'm either gonna go with the super weird one, Godzilla versus the
Hmm.
Smog Monster,
Hmm.
or I'll go with Godzilla versus Mecha Godzilla. I
Oh
think
my gosh.
both of those.
We
Yeah,
yeah.
go ahead.
I was just gonna say we had that on VHS. You remember that?
Yeah, yeah, I
I
had
think you
it.
and I
You had
watched it
it.
quite a bit of times.
Yeah, I borrowed it. That's actually probably my second or third Godzilla film I watched, and I just
So
love those two for the vibes they have, the
mhm.
editing. Like I really like that type of storytelling that they had it going at that point. Because I mean, it's not. I mean, it's really hard to tell a. I mean, I know Godzilla films are very simple, but it's still
Mhm.
hard to tell a story like that in like 80 minutes or so. But
Right.
they do it. It's great. I love them.
Well,
And
there you
probably
go.
the reason why we're about to talk about this film right now because I think it probably got me interested in like foreign films and
Hmm.
just like stuff from overseas. Because I guess the only anime or anything like that we had was stuff we
Hmm.
didn't know was anime. Like let's say
Yeah.
like the Ghostbusters cartoons.
Right.
That was like Japanese studio.
Right.
We didn't think it. We just thought it was a cartoon.
Yeah.
Even that stuff that used to, I don't know if you remember that stuff that used to come on Nickelodeon, those weird
I
fairy
do.
tales.
Yep.
That yeah, well, that was all anime, but we didn't know. So we didn't really get exposed to a lot of stuff from Japan or China.
Mm-hmm.
We just kind of like happened upon it. I guess Power Rangers was one that they kind of subversively put on
Yeah.
us. Is like here's some it's Japanese, but it's not. It's American.
Right. Right. And I mean, that's the thing. I remember years later seeing a clip from Ghostbusters and being like, man, that's straight up anime. I didn't know what anime was, so I didn't, like you said, put it together until, much, much later. But quite entertaining a show. So, and there's been a few animes that I've gotten into based off suggestions of friends and whatnot. I know you have too. So I don't consider myself like a super anime fan or anything like that, but I definitely have
Hmm.
some that I've liked. So, I know you've gotten into a few different ones too.
Oh yeah, I don't have time for it anymore though. I just like I said, I'm a film junkie,
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
just watch movies because I'm just too busy with life and stuff.
yeah.
But like I said, these Godzilla films, segue into our
Mm-hmm.
next thing, kind of got me interested in like foreign films and all that
Mm-hmm.
stuff as a kid. And probably one of the reasons why I seek out stuff like Infernal Affairs.
Mm-hmm.
You ready to talk about it?
Yeah, let's go, man.
All right. So, Infernal Affairs,
Mm-hmm.
2002.
Mm-hmm.
This movie is one that I had heard about for many years. I mean, even when it first, probably soon after it first came out,
Mm-hmm.
my friend Preston was telling me about the Martin Scorsese film, The Departed, and he's like, "Oh, this is like a year before it came out." He's like, "Oh, it's based off this Chinese film," and
Mm-hmm.
that's all I knew about it. And I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh, so this is the film that The Departed is based off of," and
Mm-hmm.
I didn't ever get around to watching it until pretty recently. I got to watch the first part on Max, but I got to say, this was one of those films that as soon as I watched it on disc compared to streaming, I saw it and it clicked for
Mm-hmm.
me. I don't I don't think that's a just a me thing. I think that's just the way my eyes work. But this
Mm-hmm.
film, ah, it's I always equate like Hong Kong films to like drugs or something because they kind of hype you up at times and put
Yeah,
you through
yeah,
weird experiences.
yeah,
This one does that. Like that last 30 or 40 minutes, you're just
yeah.
like there's several times even watching it second and third time through, they still shock me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's almost like I don't know, like a Game of Thrones type thing or something. What was your
Yeah.
thoughts on seeing this film for the first time?
Oh goodness, man. There's a lot to kind of ingest. There's a lot to see. I mean, the visuals of some of these scenes were pretty unreal, honestly.
Hmm.
Now I'm going to divert to you as far as some of the plot stuff, because it's a crazy plot in its own right. But that's good. It kept me entertained. But just some of the performances, and you alluded to the top, some of the performances were just amazing. I mean, they the if you guys are not familiar with some of these films that we've been watching, they're a bit different than what you might be used to with American films. Now, I know you just said that this was The Departed was kind of based off this, and you can kind of see it. But I mean, it just I don't know. It's one of those um, this film especially, and we've done I don't know how many of these now since we've been doing this show, but this one spoke to me at least on a I don't even know what the word is, but it's just I don't know. It spoke to me really deeply, and I really liked some of the visuals. I really liked the music. We'll get into the music, I'm sure, and just the whole vibe. That's what I said. I think I texted
Mm.
you like 30 seconds into it. I was like, the vibe of this film is really entertaining. We're both big fans of noir films, and you kind of get a little bit of that, and it's just a lot of fun, lot of fun, especially if you are a fan of those kind of things. But yeah, so there you go.
Yeah, and I'll start to help you make sense of your thoughts as you doing this
I would
because
love that.
it is it is a little overwhelming. I mean,
It
that's kind
really
of what
is.
I that's probably why it took me nearly two sittings to get all the way through it because it's
Oh
just
yeah,
like it's like I'm loving what I'm watching, but
yeah.
it's almost too much. And
That's
it
exactly right. It's exactly right. Like this one goes out, I think, a bit deeper than some of the others that we watched, that we've talked about, and that's not a bad thing at all. I have no
well,
problem with that.
yeah, and it shouldn't be viewed in the same way as a Jackie Chan film or something like that.
No,
This one
no,
is
not at all.
this one is like psychological horror,
Yeah,
sort of. Like I mean,
I like
it's
that. That's a good way to
torture.
put it.
Is the word I'm thinking about. I mean, because that's the
Yeah,
big thing that stands out to me about this film is the psychology of it. Getting into
exactly.
the heads of these two guys, but also everybody that surrounds them, kind of figuring out what's going on with them. So
Mm,
that's to me the magic of the film is really the psychology, and like you were saying, it what brings it all home though is the
mhm.
visuals, like you were saying.
Right,
Um,
right.
Unbelievably visually stunning film at times.
Mm,
We have a huge spoiler in our thumbnail, and if you've seen this shot of
mm,
of Tony Lung holding the gun up to Andrew Lau,
yeah,
that's kind of the shot. So
yeah,
obviously there's a spoiler right there.
right.
So we're gonna have spoilers in this. I'm
Definitely.
also gonna probably say I'm not gonna get into comparing it to The Departed,
Okay.
just because when I look this film up on YouTube,
Mm,
I find 30 videos comparing it to The Departed.
yeah,
Very few. At least I couldn't find one of people doing what we're about to do, just reviewing the film.
itself. Yeah.
Because I'm like, it's like, why do we have to compare? Why do we have to pick it back off The Departed? That's a
Mm,
great film.
it
Enjoy
is.
that. Um, I do have one thing, I guess, if I'm going to compare it a little bit. I like
Sure.
this one just because of its streamlined approach. It's not a 3 hour film like The Departed. It is
No.
just like an hour and 40
Yeah.
minutes.
Right.
And I just kind of like that. I like that pacing better. I like the intensity of this one a little bit better.
Hmm.
Not to say I'm really putting a contest between the two. Do you have any thoughts about just The Departed versus Infernal Affairs?
Well, I love The Departed, and it took me a few years till I watched it, but I'm a huge Jack Nicholson fan, and so I was, I finally sat down and watched it. I don't know, 4, 5, 6 years ago. I don't know, maybe even longer than that, and really liked it. Yeah, it was a long film, but it did keep my attention for most of it. So I was just like, I really enjoyed it. But it's funny, I didn't necessarily put these two films together until you started talking about it. And now that I'm like, oh yeah, I guess so. Because I feel like the films are different enough that I can separate the two. Um, Now maybe just because I don't understand this one quite as well as like say yourself or whatever, but I love The Departed. I think it's a great film, and I really like this film. I think, kind of like you, I'm gonna have to watch it a couple more times before I just really get into it. But what I liked on the surface, as far as the visuals, obviously the performances, and everything that they do in this film, I thought was as good, if not maybe even a little better than what The Departed did. Again, that takes nothing away from what they did. I think they did a really good job. Scorsese and DiCaprio and all that. So good film, but I think this is um, it stands on its own as far as I'm concerned. I really feel like this film stands on its own. And if you're a fan of I will say if you're a fan of The Departed, I would suggest that you watch this just because they are pretty similar. But again, I don't know that I would say one's better than the other. I'm not going to go that far, at least on this show anyway. I know I said a minute ago that maybe this one's a little bit better, but I don't know. You know, I'm not gonna put
Yeah,
that in stone. That's up to you guys.
yeah,
You
and
know,
I'm
your own tastes
and
and
I'm
opinions and all that.
yeah, and like I was saying, I don't really want to do that. So many shows, videos are out there
Yep.
about that. I'm sorry, I'm posting some stuff online to hopefully get some more people. But I guess the big thing, as I was saying, this scenario, just this story, is just appealing. This
Mm-hmm.
idea that these guys are going to go undercover for 10 years
Yeah.
and basically lose themselves in the process. And I think that's really cool. I don't want to get into the performances too much right now, but I love this first part of the
Mm-hmm.
film, how they basically tell what's been going on prior to the start of the film really quickly. Like you have basically the little thing with Sam saying, "You are my brothers. You're gonna go and join the police force and be
Mm-hmm.
my mole." Meanwhile, we kind of get the Tony Lung version. Like he's basically just this guy that's very observant.
Mm-hmm.
Notice the guy wearing different socks and stuff.
Right.
And then he goes undercover. Like he basically gets kicked out of the police academy so he can go deep cover. And to me, this is like my favorite part of the film just because they tell us all without really doing any exposition. You just see it happen. And from there, the story gets launched. We get our titles flash up, and then it's just
Mm-hmm.
awesome. What do you think about this first kind of jarring section of the film? Like it kind of throws you into it right away. What do you think
Right.
about this?
Well, it's kind of like another film we watched and really love, called Rope, where you're just thrown into the situation right off the bat. And I like that in that film, and I like that in this film. There's no wasted time. There's no easing into the pool. I mean, you're just kind of diving in head first, and I like that. And I told you the other day when I was watching it and texting you, I said the pacing of this film is excellent because you're not bored. You're not sitting there waiting for something to happen. It just starts. And, not a lot of films do that. There's always, even the good ones, even some really good ones do take their time to kind of, get going. And then you're into the plot. But this one's like, boom, here you go. And I really like that, especially with the whole crime theft and kind of like a mafia kind of thing. I like that. I think that's really cool, and I'm into that. And I can watch stuff like that all day long. So yeah, I enjoy the way this thing starts. It's a little jarring, but I think in a good way. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it's jarring because there's like the editing is like not like anything else in the rest of the film.
Right.
It's just like almost like music video style,
Yep. Yep.
and then it's got that very interesting music. We'll come
Mm,
back to the music later, but
please.
I like the music at the beginning, but to me the
Yeah.
music just gets better as the film goes on.
Mm,
But speaking of music and just this audiophile thing that this film's got going, it has
yeah.
this great scene where the two guys meet up right at the
Hmm.
beginning, and I just love this stereo buying scene. I don't know. What do you think about it? Why did they include this in here, in your opinion?
Gosh, I have no idea. I actually don't know. I like it. It's entertaining, but I don't know, man. What about you?
I just love it because Tony Leung, who we're gonna just gush over here in a second, Andrew Lau as well, but these
Tony.
two leads, this I just love their chemistry in this scene together.
Hmm.
I love that they're both undercover basically because one guy
Hmm.
is checking
Yeah.
out this stereo store because he wants to buy it for his house that he's about to move into with his girlfriend that she doesn't even know who the real him is. So we got
Right.
that part of the story coming in here.
Right.
But then we also have uh, we got Chan here, and he's basically pretending to be a stereo salesman,
Yeah.
um, while he's having this other cover as a mob guy. So it's just
Yeah.
like different levels of this. And I
Mm-hmm.
think they kind of do connect with each other right here. I think the
Mm-hmm.
real thems is here for a second. They're listening to this music together. They both know what they're talking about as far as the speaker quality and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just great. I wish we could just have more of the film him being the stereo salesman because it's
Mm.
kind of interesting. And it's almost like this is the part of being this criminal undercover guy that I actually
Mm.
enjoy. Like I enjoy selling speakers to people and being a good sort of salesman,
Yeah.
because the rest of the film, the guy is pretty much tortured mentally,
Oh my
as you
gosh. Yeah.
would be after being undercover for 10 years.
Yeah.
So that's why I think they have this scene in there. Just seeing with these kudu guys meeting up, it's almost like they could have been friends in another life or something.
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely some chemistry there. Some funny stuff. I mean, I wouldn't call this film too funny, but there's a little bit of comedy there. Just a really interesting way to kind of get things going as far as what you're going to see with these characters. Because there's a lot of different characters, and we've mentioned the ladies that we'll get to in a minute. But I really liked how they introduced these guys, and you said they were undercover for 10 years. I mean, that's the thing. Like, 1 year, you'd probably be okay, but 10, you're going to have some effects, and it's going to change you, and it's going to be, uh, you know, it's definitely going to show something. And I think they do a good job of showing that in this film.
Yeah, I think so. And I guess the guy that I think of the most, because it's not because he's one of the best actors ever, but
Yeah.
Tony Leung
Here we
as
go.
Chen, like his character, I just feel it. Like I feel his pain. I feel this guy's suffering. The fact that I'm going to do my job, but I want out. And these people keep telling him, no, you need to stay for a little bit longer. I feel his frustration. I feel his pain. I mean, the guy has to go to see a psychologist just so he can take a nap because I guess
Yeah.
he can't sleep at night and stuff.
Yeah.
And we definitely see it weighing on him a lot. What do you think
Yeah.
about Tony Leung's performance?
I think he does a really good job of kind of putting you into the head of somebody like that and really showing, like I said, if you were in this situation, it would mess you up. It would mess your sleeping up. I mean, it would be a disaster. It'd be a nightmare in all honesty. So the fact that this is shown and, it's not glorifying anything. It's not making, anything look cool. It's really saying, hey, this guy's in this situation and he has trouble handling it. He's not, it's not just water off the duck's back or whatever, it's really affected him to the point where he can't even sleep. And I mean, who can't relate to that from time to time? So I really like this intro. You really feel for him. And like you said, he is the best actor in this film. I really feel like his performance takes this film to another level. Not
Hmm.
saying anybody else could do the role, but I really feel like what he does, especially with the character and making him sympathetic, was pretty brilliant in my eye.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing. Sympathetic is a good word to
Mm.
describe it.
Yep.
He's the guy that I can definitely feel more. I mean, Andrew Lau, we'll get to him in a second. Like I feel where he's coming from, but Tony, like I hurt for the guy.
Mm.
I want
Yeah.
him to live his life and enjoy it, and I think he's. I mean, I'm obsessed with his films.
Mm.
He's become my favorite actor, and just
Hmm.
seeing him in this role and see how he handles this. I would ask you something
Okay.
as an actor, sort of,
Yeah.
an actor who studies
Yep.
actors. Um,
Hmm.
they always say that Tony acts with his eyes.
Mm.
Did his anything he was doing with his eyes and his looks kind of stand out to you?
I like that. I like how you asked that because there's something, and I didn't notice this for years until somebody brought it to my attention. But if you look at somebody who acts with their eyes, you can see it. You can see it either they get big or they're moving all over the place. Um, it's just almost like you can hear their thoughts based on the way their eyes are moving, and not everybody can do that. I'm not saying I could definitely do that as well as others, But that's something I did notice. I'm glad you brought that up because that's something I like to see because again, it really shows emotion. And you're like, yeah, I know he's acting, but it really looks like he's feeling this. It really makes his performance that much more believable and accurate. And I really like that. I really think that's something that not a lot of people could do. Like I said, I don't feel like I'm not great with acting with my eyes as some of these other people, but Tony definitely does that. I mean, some of the best actors don't say a word. Some of the best actors can just look a certain way or have their eyes move a certain way, and you're like, yeah, I get it. I understand what's going on here, and I got a lot of that. I didn't understand a lot of this film, but I understood especially this part just because of the way he was looking and the way his eyes were going. So I'm really glad you brought that up. I almost forgot about that. Good job.
Yeah, yeah, he's great, and
Hmm.
gotta get into Andrew Lau now. As
Hmm.
I love his character's name, just Lau. Well, he's got a last name and everything, but
Yeah.
I always get this guy confused with. The first time I sat down to watch this, I was thinking it was going to be Andy Lau
Oh yeah.
because Andy Lau's a famous Hong Kong actor. But then I was like, oh, this is a different guy, and it kind of threw me off. And I was like, oh, it's Andrew Lau, not Andy Lau. So confusing.
Yeah.
But Andrew Lau, as the other side of the coin, the guy
Mm.
that's pretending to be a cop, um, his character didn't click with me the first time I watched it. But the
Right.
more I watch the film, the more I like his character and sort of the change that he goes through. Because I think his big thing is he's living the lie. And
Mm.
we see that like every relationship he's with, like he's hanging out with
Mm.
the police inspector. He doesn't let on that, hey, I'm actually betraying you guys right now. No, he's going
Yeah.
to act like, no, this is my friend. This is my work, my colleague. And his girlfriend, this is the weirdest one to me. It's like she thinks he's a good guy, that he's
Yeah.
this upstanding cop and everything.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
actually, he's a mole. He's working for the mafia. He's working for the triads, I
Right.
should say. And I think that weighs on him in a different way, but
Mm.
we don't get to see that till like toward the end of the film. Because to me, this first scene where he's in his apartment is just like it almost makes me sick because
Mm.
he's just. I mean, what part of their relationship is real? It's hard for me to
Mm.
think about this because I mean, you think about it. If you just had a secret between you and your wife, how much that would
Right.
cause you to be different. And this is a
Mm.
huge secret. This is like
Yeah.
I'm a completely different person.
Yeah.
I don't know this. What do you think about his scenario that he has to go through?
Well, I mean, I think if you look at other films and other characters, and I'm big into mafia movies, so obviously you think of stuff like, A Few Good Men. I mean, not A Few Good Men. Um,
Goodfellas.
Goodfellas, stuff like
Hmm.
that, where this guy's trying to uh, act, like two different people and has the secret. Um, that can't be good. That can't be good. And so you see this in other films. You see this and I like the way that they did present this, and I like the chemistry between him and his wife or whatever, and it's I like how they show the conflict of interest, I guess you would say, of this guy because he's trying to be a mole, but then he's trying to keep that hush hush, and that's a pretty big thing, like you said, to kind of keep a secret. And I couldn't do it. I honestly like that would scare the crap out of me to have to hide that much of myself because one little slip up, and not only are you dead, but your family's dead. All your friends are dead. I mean, you never know. Um, so yeah, I think there's a really interesting character to watch. Again, you kind of feel for the guy, but kind of not. I don't know.
Yeah. Like I was saying, I like him more as the film progresses, and I like him
Right.
more as I watch the film. So I'll come back to him later because I think his arc is sort of my big thing that I took away this time.
Hmm.
But both of these leads just knock it out of the park, and I guess that's the big key to the film is if you don't
That's it. Yeah.
like feel both of these guys and sort of see their struggle that they're going through, like you were saying, living a lie, being undercover, We didn't even talk about how Tony's probably his characters had to like basically commit crimes and get arrested, and he can't just say, "I'm a cop, it's okay, don't arrest me," but
Yeah,
he can't do that.
yeah.
Let's get into these other two guys because to me it's all about these four characters and how they interact. So, got to talk about Eric Sang right now. Eric Sang is the big bad Sam. I told you that this is some of the best like casting against type I've ever seen in a film, and I
Right.
stand by that
Sure.
because Eric Sang,
Mm,
he's basically a clown in his other roles that I know.
mm.
I was going to try to share a video with you. I'm going to try to do that real fast. You go ahead and talk about Sam and Eric Sang, and then I'll try to pull this clip up.
Uh, yeah. I mean, it kind of reminded me a little bit. It's funny you say clown too, because if you see comic actors play a serious role like Jim Carrey or even Adam Sandler, stuff like that, um, some can do better than others. I thought his performance was really good. I don't know if it was my favorite character or anything like that, but it was really interesting character for sure, especially compared to the other two that we just talked about. Um, what was the clip you were going to show?
I'm trying to pull it up. I almost got it. It's and this is the beautiful thing of doing stuff live.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. We are definitely live,
but
guys.
yeah, so Eric Sang, yeah, he's basic. Here we go.
Oh, here we go.
Pause. Okay, let me give you some context. So,
Yeah,
like, I've seen
let's
this
hear
guy in like all the Lucky Stars films,
it. Yeah.
because in Winners and Sinners, he's not in that one. But then
Mm.
they bring him in the next Lucky Stars film, and he's this guy that's like talking a little high like this, sort of like Mickey Mouse a little bit. But to me,
Yeah.
he's more of a Porky Pig type guy. So just imagine
Yeah.
Porky Pig, but he's a perv in all his movies. Like,
Oh my
man, like I
god.
wish I could find a clip of this guy talking about boobies and stuff because that's what I think of when I think of Eric Sang. He's just like, oh, my boobies. But in this film, it's totally
Yeah.
opposite. But let me show you. This is a clip I found from Millionaires Express, and he's going
Let's
to
see
be the
it.
guy that's trying to get on the train on the horse here. So this is
Okay.
just some clown buffoonery.
Hmm.
I don't think we'll get copyrighted for this, but here he is. Okay, yeah, it's a crazy film, but I think you kind of get what I'm saying here.
Yeah. Yeah.
That this guy is just a clown, and that's what I
Yeah.
always thought of when I thought of this guy. And then I see him in this film, and he's this ruthless mob boss,
Oh yeah.
and it's totally believable. Like
Mhm.
I just kept waiting for a scene. I guess that's why The Departed they have him the Jack Nicholson version get even crazier and more
Yeah.
brutal. But in this film, like he's he's sort of unpredictable in the scenes he's in, and
Yeah.
I kind of like that volatility. I like how Eric Sang is able to really lose his silly image and come across as a very intimidating and very scary type of guy.
Well, I think if you have a character like this in a movie like this, you have to, if you're going to really show an accurate, you know, visual of a mob or mafia or whatever, I think you have to show somebody like this that they're willing to cross any line, they're willing to do whatever. But what I really like about this guy, now that you mentioned that he's a comedy guy, is that yeah, it doesn't even look like the same guy to me. It's just he's just a different person, and to me that's the best kind of actor that can switch from two different kind of genres, like going from comedy to drama or whatever. And like I said, I've seen Robin Williams did it quite a bit on a number of occasions, and Adam Sandler he has done some drama work, but yeah, not being too familiar with this guy like you are, I didn't really have the frame of reference, but I kind of see it now, so that's pretty cool. I'm glad you showed
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I'll show you some. I mean, I'll send you some other recommendations of his films because
Please do.
I think you would kind of dig them. Their movies
Yeah,
basically have no plots. He's just
yeah, yeah,
goofy.
yeah, yeah.
Um, But I really like this performance just
Mm,
because taking Eric Sang and making him intimidating is just, I think that's brutal. I mean, not brutal,
mm.
brilliant direction and just a
Right.
great performance from an actor who really going against typecast, which I love. And I guess it gets to that whole thing that they always say that the best actors are
Mm,
your comedic actors,
mm,
because it's really hard to sell a joke and a laugh. And I
mm,
guess we get another great example of that. And the scene that jumps to my mind
mm,
is the one with the other patriarch of the film, Anthony Wong,
mm,
as Inspector Wong. I'm getting him in a second, but the scene where those two guys meet up and Sam's sitting there eating the Chinese food. He's like, "Oh, thank you for this meal," and then he just takes it and throws it across the table. Uh, and he talks about the cool part that the film kind of follows from there is like they both realize there's a mole among them, and it's like who's
right.
going to figure out first because that guy's going to
Mm,
be dead, and there's bad news for the other group. It's really raises the stakes that scene. I think it's
yeah.
Eric Sang's probably best acting in the whole film. Um, do you have anything to say about that scene?
It's so funny because the whole time I was watching this, I was just thinking Jack Nicholson. I was just like, yes, this is a Nicholson scene right here. Has his energy, has his kind of explosiveness, and it just kind of comes out of nowhere. Um, really intense. Uh, yeah, I liked it a lot. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, and I really like, as I was saying, I've appreciated Andrew Lau's performance more,
Hmm.
but I really
Hmm.
like Anthony Wong as the chief inspector.
Yep.
He's almost like the dad of the film, and uh, the sequel kind of gets into like even though it's a kind of a prequel, it gets into the relationship him and Sam more. But
Hmm.
it just on the surface, it's neat to see sort of the lore of this film where it's like these two guys have had run in. He's basically
Yeah.
made a session to try to catch Sam.
Hmm.
Meanwhile, he has a relationship with these other two guys.
Right.
So he's the key guy in the film to me. He's the one
Mm.
that uh, kind of keeps all the dynamics in order, and that's why his death is, oh my
Mm.
gosh, it's
Mm.
just thinking about it. It's rough. Like I know it's gonna happen,
Brutal.
but
Yeah.
to me, it's like one of the most pivotal scenes of the whole film. What do you think about that?
I thought it was really brutal. I thought it was. It's interesting. Even those scenes are just so. And I don't want to say they're like more, um, you know, graphic or anything. I mean, I guess you could. I don't know, but definitely brutal. And when you don't expect it, kind of thing, it just kind of took me off guard. Um, but I thought it was effective. I thought it was an effective part of the film. I didn't. I wasn't like, okay, that shouldn't have happened. But it was definitely. I was caught off guard at first, and then I was like, okay, yeah,
Oh yeah,
this is this is probably
yeah,
what would happen, in otherwise.
yeah, because it's a major twist because
It is.
he's
Yeah.
already had a run in with the gangsters before, and they're just kind of like,
Yep.
"Oh, you're not gonna catch us," and then they kill him. They throw him
Yep.
off like a 30 or 40 story building onto a car,
Exactly. Yeah.
and it's so shocking.
Yeah.
It's like one of those scenes of like Game of Thrones or something. Where we're like, "Oh, I didn't expect
Mhm.
that character to get killed,"
Right.
and to me, it's like I said, it's the most pivotal scene is because we see Tony's character. I keep calling him Tony. We should say Chen. He almost breaks character right there because
Yeah.
this is supposed to be his enemy, but it's
Mhm.
also in real life we know it's his boss.
Yeah.
And the one guy that could actually get him out of being undercover, the one
Mhm.
guy that can actually save him, is dead now.
Yeah.
And he's just hurting on so many levels. And once again, it's a great scene.
And it just really elevates what's going on because, like you said, this is the guy that could get him out of this situation. This guy that could make things better, and now he's basically on his own. And it was a powerful scene. It really was very powerful, um, and unexpected. Again, like I said, it was really unexpected. Um, mm,
Yeah,
I'm,
major twist. I love it how this film does twist because to me, a movie's great whenever you know the twist is going to be there, like the second, third time you watch it, and it
but it's
still
still
hits
effective.
you. And
Yeah.
and that's what that's what this movie does a few times in it. But yeah, so he dies, and just a crazy, crazy scene because that's what stood out to me this time was like this guy nearly breaks his character right there. He nearly gets like basically killed
Mm.
right there, and he has to just play it off like, oh, I
Yeah.
don't even know whether that was close. I nearly got killed or something. Like
Right.
it's very interesting. And then he gets driven off and by that one guy that had been plugged, and they're supposed to be act like they're all buddy buddy, but at the same time he's like, I've kind of been a traitor for you guys. So
Mm.
it's just a very conflicting scene, and I love this movie what it does there. But I guess before we get into the big climaxes and all that,
Mm.
we probably should talk about the thing that it's kind of the second, like it's an afterthought in the movie, and that's the women.
Mm.
Um, so I hear a lot of people complain about this film and say it kind of sidelines the women,
Mm.
and to a degree, I agree because I'm like, yeah, these are some beautiful ladies. I would like to see more scenes with them.
Mm.
But at the same time, I can see why the filmmakers handled it the way they did.
Mm.
I want to hear your thoughts before I kind of give you my new epiphany and hot take about this.
All right. So this is the part of the film that you're definitely gonna have a lot more insight on, and probably because for people that are not as familiar with these films and they jump in kind of like myself, um, I don't really know. I don't have really any frame of reference or anything. I enjoy their performances, and they're like you said, they're very beautiful. But I don't know if they're as integral part of the plot as they might be otherwise. And that was part of the film that I didn't really understand is that are they just supposed to be eye candy or what's going on? I mean, are they am I missing something? That's the thing I guess I'm trying to say is did I miss something in the plot that really showed their importance or are they just supposed to be there to look at. So I'm going to defer to you on this one specifically.
Yeah. So they're not like fluff, I don't think. I mean, they're not
Right.
integral to the plot like you're saying. They
Mm-hmm.
don't really, nothing hinges upon them. But I think they add more
Mm-hmm.
depth to our characters, such as
Mm-hmm.
the psychiatrist. She's there because Tony has nowhere to go. Uh, it kind of shows you the pain that this guy's experiencing. He's got to see a psychiatrist. And the other lady, his ex girlfriend
Mm-hmm.
that he runs into a couple occasions that has the kid,
Right.
that's like, that could have been me. That's what he's thinking. He's thinking, if I wasn't undercover, I wouldn't have lost 10 years of my life
Mm.
and basically lose my whole life permanently in the future. I could have been with her. So I
Mm.
think that's kind of what it is. It's like regret. It's more pain added upon his hell because
Mm.
we haven't talked about the thesis of this film yet, but it's basically Infernal Affairs is these guys are in hell. That's kind of the thing is both of them are in hell the
Yeah.
whole film. And
Yeah. Yeah.
we get that with these two relationships right here. And we get it with the fiance because the fiance, she is the one that brings out the serious change in Andrew's character.
Mm.
Because that's the thing I noticed this time. Because I think in the past, I always found it, even though I've only seen this movie like 3 times, but the second time I watched it and the first time I was like, why did he just change like that? Like
Mm.
because he goes from I'm helping out the triads, Sam's my guy, till I'm going to shoot Sam. And that didn't really make sense to me. But the thing is,
Right.
it's it's this character, his fiance, but also the death of Wong, who was kind of like
Mm.
his dad, his father figure. I think that's the thing that pushes him. That he realizes
Mm.
that if I'm associated with Sam, then I'm a bad guy, and I'm
Mm.
not a bad guy. That's what I think he kind of realizes he's struggling with. As his
Mm.
wife is like, I can't figure out if you're a good guy or a bad guy. What are you going to be? I mean, it's very,
Uh,
very on the nose writing, but I
yeah.
think that conversation plus the death of Wong is what changes him and
Mm.
makes him say, no, I'm not going to be a mole anymore. I'm going to shoot Sam. It's, I guess, his way of trying to be a good guy, trying to actually be the part of being the cop for once.
Makes
What do you
sense.
think?
Yeah, I think that that's a really good way to put it, and it makes sense of what happened a lot more than. So I appreciate that. That's yeah, that makes.
Yeah.
pretty good sense anyway.
So I think the women do have a role, but it's
Hmm.
not like an integral role. It's sort of like the guys actually cannot have a serious relationship with these women.
Hmm.
They cannot be totally part of the thing because they're basically playing fake guys the whole time.
Yeah,
So
right,
to me, it makes sense that
right.
they wouldn't be featured a ton. And I know I said I wasn't going to talk about The Departed. I think The Departed does add a little bit more to these characters, but
Yeah.
that's what you can do when you make a 3 hour movie compared to an hour and 40 minutes
Right,
movie. Yeah,
exactly. So
but
let's
I
go
don't.
ahead. I didn't mean to jump on you, man, but let's go ahead and talk about the climax here. Are you ready for the climax, man?
I think so.
Kind of
It's
set it up for us.
it's the yeah, it's this iconic scene. Everything's building up to this. Like for
Hmm.
me, when I'm actually watching this part where they're on the phone to each other, like on the bus, like my heart stops beating. I'm just like
Yeah,
getting into it. The music
yeah.
starts playing, doom, doom,
Oh, I
and like
love the music in this
there's
part.
we're about to have this climax of these
Mm,
guys meeting up on the building, and it's Tony's character. He's trying to get his freedom back. This
mm,
guy's trying to wreck his life. Meanwhile, he's wrecking Andrew's life because he revealed to his fiance that this guy's not a good guy. Like she heard that
mm.
recording, and just that whole scene. Before I get into that, that scene is killer too. Like just whenever he comes home and she's shocked,
Yeah,
and he puts on
yep,
the music. It's the same stuff that was on a stereo store early
yeah,
in the film.
yeah.
Um, just great writing and great execution. But this climax, man,
Mm,
oh, such a gut punch because tensions have been going higher and higher,
mm.
and then we think we're getting a relief. We think, oh, he's gonna be fine. He's gonna get
Yeah,
off. He's gonna get his life back. It's gonna be
yeah,
great. And then it gets ripped away from you right there.
yep,
Oh my gosh,
yeah.
it's it's so. I I don't think they could do a scene like this in American film. I don't, because these guys go all nuts with it. We have one of the best actors, the biggest actors, get shot in the face,
Mm.
and oh my
There you
gosh,
go.
it's so graphic. It's so
Yeah,
heartbreaking.
yeah,
I
yeah,
just,
yeah, yeah.
I just feel so much for this character and how this is just
Dude,
so tragic.
this is what I think, and this is gonna sound terrible, but this is what I think sold me on this film is the fact that it really went for the gut punch. It really made you feel, yeah, I was like you. I was first like, okay, we're gonna have this happy ending, but then I've watched enough noir films. You've watched enough noir films. I was thinking in the back of my head, uh yeah, this probably is not gonna end very well, and for it to be that uh you know graphic, yeah, that just threw me off. And I'm not a huge fan of gratuitous violence. Like, I'm not a huge fan of all this blood and stuff, but if it's required and if it's trying to show an accurate description of these kinds of people, that's what you want. You want to see that, and you want, and so yeah, it was a really big gut punch, but I appreciate it so well because it went that far. Again, I don't know what that says about me. I'm not really a violent person myself, but I think from a thematic standpoint, when you have films like this, um, there's not a lot of companies or filmmakers over here that I think would make that choice. Yeah, maybe Scorsese, Tarantino, stuff like that, but most of the time you wouldn't see something like that. So I really appreciate it. I thought it was very effective. You just know you're building to something when the music starts, building up and stuff like that. So you're building up to a finish. You just don't know what. And so, yeah, my heart was racing too. And then your jaw's on the floor because you're like, wow, that just happened. And that's it, and you kind of just, I kind of sat there and thought about it for a few minutes, to be honest with you. I kind of vegged over it for a little bit because it's why I love film noir. It's why I love these dark films that take these chances that normally you would not see, and you're waiting for something to happen, but you don't know what it is, and then it happens, and you're just like, oh man, there we go. It's just kind of a release, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
It does, just because I understand your feeling, like of sitting there after
Yeah.
the credits are started rolling, and you're just sitting there
Mm,
in your chair and you can't even move. You're just like,
exactly.
what just
Yeah.
happened? Because
Yep.
that's how I felt the first time I watched this film, and I I was surprised that I even felt it this time preparing for a podcast because oftentimes when I'm taking notes and stuff, like I'm noticing
Yeah.
more stuff about the plot, but the
Yeah.
scenes don't hit me as much usually.
Mm,
But this ending, it still hit me. I was just like, oh my gosh.
mm.
And just sitting there watching the whole truncated funeral thing and just getting into Andrew's head at that point that this guy, he's still suffering now. I think
Mm.
his suffering gets worse as the film goes on. So now he's going to go through his hell of basically living with the guilt that he cost an innocent man his life, basically. That
Mm.
he would have just kind of not been a jerk earlier in the film and tried to erase this guy's
Yeah.
life and stuff. He probably could have avoided all this. But it's very interesting ending,
Mm.
very great film. It's one of the classics of this like genre, in my opinion, especially modern classics.
Yeah.
It's like to me, just Tony Leung and the Hong Kong skyline, just up there on the top of that building is that's just what I think of, and I
Yeah.
love this film. I haven't finished the third one yet. The second
Mm-hmm.
one I think is definitely worth watching. It's
Mm-hmm.
got tons of shocking moments, but at the same time the plot's a little more convoluted. So I'm gonna have to watch that one again before I could totally recommend it. But it's just great movies. Infernal Affairs, yeah, highly recommend
My
it.
final thoughts are this, guys. If you've seen The Departed, I suggest you watch this film. I think you would really enjoy this film. Like I said, I saw The Departed a few years ago and was just blown away. And again, this film blew me away too. Um, More so in the second viewing that I did the other night. It really clicked with me. I don't know why it does that. Like it takes two or three viewings for something to click, but when it does, then it's like, where's this film been my whole life? Kind of thing. It just becomes a part of you, as we've said. And so, if you really like films like The Departed, any of these mafia movies, Goodfellas, I would definitely suggest you guys check this out because I really think it was an entertaining film. I think there's a lot of good performances and just the way the film flows and the pacing was my favorite part because you just didn't sit there bored. You weren't waiting for a scene to get over with to get back to the good stuff. I mean, it was a pivotal scene just about every scene. There was not a wasted, in my opinion, a wasted moment in this film that really drug it, um, you know, that much. So I really, really
Yeah,
appreciated this film. I think this might be one of my favorites that we've talked about in this genre, and we've talked about quite a few of them. And you're definitely pulling me into this genre of film that I was not aware of. So if you guys want a good film with kind of a mafia feel, and you haven't seen this film, I would highly, highly, highly suggest going on Max. It is on Max, so go on there, stream it like I did, and just have a ball. I mean, it's just a really, really entertaining film, literally from start to finish.
it is, and I think you hit the sort of its key thing that it has
Mm,
is the pacing is it's
exactly.
just relentless,
Yep.
and I think that it makes it more impactful because
Mm,
as the stakes get bigger and the stuff happens, these guys are very desperate. They are
mm,
tense, and if you feel that as a viewer too, you're like, yeah,
exactly.
this is cool, and I'm glad you're getting an HK cinema. It's great.
Yeah, man.
It's
I really
like I said,
appreciate the.
I could only equate it to like some adrenaline drug or something because
Yeah,
it is a
yeah,
ride. And
yeah.
we'll definitely watch more films like this in the future. And we got some other stuff coming along the pipeline. So hopefully
Mm,
you guys can stay tuned and
yep.
keep abreast with the channel. Hopefully we can have some good streams and good other videos. Uh, any parting words to share with the audience?
All I gotta say is thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you so much for liking our videos. If you like this video, make sure you put a like on it and share with your friends. We are doing more live stuff now, so this is going to be something we'll try to do fairly often. But make sure you follow us on X/Twitter at Supercast with a Z. Let us know if you're a fan of these films. What's your favorite? If you've seen this film, give us your thoughts on it and what you think of it, because we love to hear from you guys. And because we're all just big one, we're fans like everybody else, and we just like to talk movies, and that's what we do here on the Supercast. So again, Steve, thanks so much for introducing this film to me. I really had a good time with it, and like I said, if you guys have not seen this film and you have any interest in it, and we haven't just like ruined it for you, please go watch it on Max and let us know on X what you thought about it. Because again, we just want to hear from you guys and have this good conversation, because that's what we're about. So thanks again, Stevesy. Hope everybody has a good Thanksgiving that's celebrating it. I know I am. Gonna have some good food and stuff. So wish everybody here, especially on the States, happy Thanksgiving. Steve, any parting comments for you, sir?
Nah, just happy Thanksgiving. Gonna go watch some movies and play some guitar. Living
Sounds
the good
great,
life.
man. Well, thanks so much for joining us, guys. We'll see you guys next time here on the Supercast. Take care, everybody.
All right, we'll see you guys. Gonna end this stream.
Bye.